I feel like I'm in the whitest Newcastle version of Pulp Fiction right now.
And welcome to The Joust. My name is Naggy. I'm here as always with my co-host Liam McNeil. But Jousters, we have another special guest for you tonight. This man is a Knights tragic. He's a bit of a, what would you call it? Pioneer? But he's a Knights, what he is.
Trailblazer.
A trailblazer. He's a great friend of the show. We know him as Karlo, but you might recognise him as the face for Bronze for Johns. Karlo is welcome to The Joust for the very first time. We've been meaning to do this for weeks and weeks and weeks.
Thank you so much for having me on, boys. I'm absolutely chuffed to be here.
Mate,
It's great.
The pleasure is all ours, Karlo. We love what you're doing. We love your passion. It's brilliant. It's been too long. We should have got you on years ago.
That was very much worth the wait. This is, I'm living the dream, I promise you.
And you're building up your expectations, mate.
No.
Oh, Jesus.
Start high and only decline. We'll jump in for Bronze for Johns a little bit later, but for now, I think we'll jump straight into a segment let's call The News. Yeah, lots making news this week, Liam, but I think story about Kurt Mann.
Yeah, we'll start with a bit of a sombre one at the moment. Look, obviously Kurt has been part of the rugby league bubble. He's been in with the Knights for the whole season. And unfortunately, Kurt's mother is going through a really tough time suffering from cancer at the moment. So Kurt obviously unable to leave the bubble to see his mother, who's in Queensland. So, the borders being shut and all. And it's such a sad one to see, given that he's having arguably his best season
of his career.
Yeah. He's having a career year, and to see what he's been putting up with behind the scenes is just it just speaks to the strength of the bloke that you don't hear about that often, and to hear what he's going through and how he's handling himself and composing himself. We all the best wishes to Kurt from us. We know he listens to the show. So.
Absolutely. And look, he's not only been a fantastic player this year, but he's been, for me, the real linchpin of the side. The same way that Cameron McInnes is for St George there, where you just see a bloke that week in, week out is putting his heart and soul into each game, and is always leading the effort areas, and by no means is he the physically most gifted player, but as far as effort, he just plays well outside of his weight range. What do you thought about Kurt Mann this year?
I had, because I love my people. I love the people in the game, and it's always interesting to see that non-player aspect of players. So I actually ran into Kurt, I think, a week before the community members' day earlier back in, what was it, January, February? Anyway.
Was it at IGA New Lantern?
No.
I know he likes to buy schnitzels there.
Well, I ran into him at Charlestown, of all places, and I said to my missus, I said, it's Kurt Mann. She's like, calm down, you're not 12. And so I did calm down, and I just walked in and I said, Kurt, I just want to let you know, I'm obviously a big fan of the club, and this was pre-COVID, so I shook his hand, and I just said, mate, I promise you, we're all wishing you the best this year. Like, we're all behind you. We've got your back. And, I hope you have a great year. And you can always tell by the response whether they're like, well, that's really nice that he said that, or they're like, can you please call the cops? And he just...
See, that's the one we get.
Yeah. And I get that from Joey a bit. But no, Kurt just said, thanks, mate. I really appreciate that. And then I said, enjoy the rest of your day, and have a great season. So I like to think I'm responsible for the great season that he's having.
The rise of Kurt Mann.
You're welcome, Newcastle.
I think he might be the next statue. There we go.
He's got time and he's playing well enough. I think it's easy for us to forget, not only do these players have lives outside of the club, but as well as just the age of these players who are, we often talk about you're either 22 or 30, and these players, all players are 22 or 30, but these players are in their 20s, most of them, and they have lives, they have families outside, and they've been heavily impacted by this season, which since it's restarted and there's been fans going to the games, you start to think, okay, everything's back to normal. But these players are living under these really strict conditions where they're not being able to communicate with their loved ones and go and see people that are sick. So Kurt Mann, hats off to you this week with not only dealing with a lot off the field, but just being able to produce so much on the field and really give it all for the club, which was what really Newcastle's all about.
Absolutely. Giving it all for the red and blue. And yeah, Kurt, mate, best wishes from the joust. I guess that's all we can really offer.
And a little bit further on from that, a second item in the news this week is one of the favourites on this show since he's come to the club. The Sandman himself, Aiden Guerra. Good old tired Aiden. Look, another man that is just 100 points for effort. Goes out there and tackles himself senseless, even though he's obviously battling chronic fatigue syndrome, which might affect him from the moment he comes on the field. Has decided to hang up the boots at season's end. Now, Liam, what are your thoughts on the Sandman?
Well, now I'm glad you mentioned the name the Sandman. As some of you may recall, Karlo and Naggy, I imagine you would, of course, the tremendous comedy duo Flacco and the Sandman.
Yes.
Now, I think that's where the Knights have gone wrong over the last few years. We signed Aiden Guerra, great purchase, great signing. We never signed the Flacco.
Yeah.
So we had our Sandman, but we never had the Flacco.
Yeah.
Who, supposing we did have a Flacco that we didn't know about, who would you pick as the Newcastle Knights Flacco, Karlo?
I thought we were going to discuss before the show for prepreparation. I've got nothing at the moment.
Well, I'm glad you said that because neither do I.
All I can picture is the Sandman, and trust me, you don't want to see what that looks like. So.
And I'll tell you what, the Sandman, the actual Sandman, is also a Novocastrian.
He is. He's a good, honest Newcastle boy. But I got halfway through that question and realised I don't know the answer either. So that's
it's a very old. I don't think they've been a comedy duo touring for about 20 years.
No, I remember reading Sandman's book. And he had all these great stories about going to Dicko and Susan Gilmore. And
I don't think there's not a single player in there. If you were to compare any other player to any, they'd be like, stop doing your podcast. You're bringing the players down.
What about Alan Langer?
Yeah, look.
If he shaved his head and did the little curl.
Yeah,
Scott Minto.
Now Minto, yes.
We had a Minto playing for us.
Yes.
Who was that? It was Scott Minto's. It was Scott Minto's nephew. I'm not making this up, am I?
I think you are making this up now.
No. I think
I don't know if Scott Minto's old enough to have a nephew playing first grade rugby league.
2012, I think he. We'll work that out. We'll come back to you with who's done the Flacco.
You'll get the stats man onto that.
Aiden Guerra. Good on you, Sam, man. Thank you very much for your service. Look, I think he did a lot of things as well as open up that sort of Roosters exile bunch that came to the Knights, which included Mitchell Pearce and SKD and players like that. So Paul Livingston, isn't he just a gorgeous man?
There you go, Peter Dutton. That's your rugby league Flacco. Peter Dutton.
Good God.
But yeah, look, I think Aiden will be missed. He was here in a tough time. He was the captain through some really bad years, and it's
came with a wealth of experience. Obviously, Queensland origin. He opened that sort of caliber of this is the player that we're going to sign now. Is these players that have been somewhere and done something, which is not something we're typically known for the last 10 years.
I think Aiden Guerra's time at our club certainly isn't being appreciated as he's playing. It's something that the appreciation will grow once we've seen him gone. People tend to forget just how, and this isn't my observation, someone pointed this out online, people don't appreciate how bad we were when he came.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And he was a rep caliber player, and he took a punt on us. And I think we owe him a pretty significant debt of gratitude.
He was one of the early ones that signed on, I believe.
Yes.
Was he the first of the East Group?
SKD was the first.
SKD was the first to come over.
Yeah.
But hadn't Aiden Guerra signed and SKD came over early because of drugs?
It would have been something like he had the hair follicle sample. He wasn't. He didn't.
He had drugs.
He had the drugs on him.
He didn't
on
do
him,
them.
but not in him. I think he said, Your Honour, he contacted us and we said, this is how you play it. Get the hair follicle sample.
Well, he was holding them for Paul Carter. We all remember Paul Carter, noted rugby league bad boy, and Cessnock Goanna. Really? After he got shit canned from rugby league due to multiple crimes. He went to play for Cessnock.
You thought he would be smarter than to hang out with Paul Carter. Is that, I believe, is
the cavalcade of stars out of the Cessnock Goanna. It just keeps on going. That's great.
Oh, I didn't know he played for my Bears. Shut up, Paul.
Moving slightly, and also just quickly to note, Aiden Guerra's horrifying ankle injury that he did last year.
I didn't think he'd play again.
Neither did I. So he's done. Obviously, the body's feeling. His 10 plus years of playing first grade, and it's and thank you, Aiden, for your service. Now we move on to something a little less Knights with James Tarmow. 31-year-old prop premiership winner is former New South Wales and Australian prop is going to the West Tigers.
Now I feel like this is a signing the Tigers have been waiting for a while. They've made some horrible horrible signings over the last few years, including, I believe, Moses Mbai, Russell Packer, Ben Madalino, Josh Reynolds, all on $700,000 plus.
Chris McQueen.
That's Newcastle. That's Newcastle great Russell Packer. Let's.
Sorry, yeah, Knights legend Russell
Thank
Packer.
you.
Yeah.
I personally think I think Josh Addo-Carr is the signing that they're waiting to make. I think, but James Tarmo is a great signing for them. It sort of gives them that muscle up front.
Does that talk them down if you say it's a great signing? For them.
Look, I am friends with a lot of Tigers fans online, so no, I promise you, I think that James Tarmo is a great signing for anyone.
And those poor Tigers fans, they've had it tough.
Hey, they've had it tough. It's 9 straight seasons of missing finals. That's so they won't be doing 10 in a row. I'm picking finals for the Tigers next year. Bookmark this. The Tigers will pick finals in 2021.
Bookmarked. I like it. I just thought towards, up until the last few weeks, he was such a great fit for Penrith because he had that beard and he just looked like a mountain man. He looked like the kind of bloke who's going to jet off through the bush in the Blue Mountains and try and find that mythical Katoomba panther.
I was so excited when he was playing for the Blues. I was like, yeah, this is finally the enforcer that we sort of got up front. So,
and then he was paired with Aaron Woods.
Yeah, I don't. Oh. Now he's someone who looks like he's a mountain man. He is no mountain man.
He's the Flacco to the Sandman.
There we go, gentlemen. We got to it. We found our Flacco. But yes, got to agree. Great signing by the Tigers. I don't know if I want to see the Tigers succeed, but why not? Give them a go. Give them a run.
Sure.
Yeah.
Look, Liam, the Hook has made some. Next time in the news, Hook has made some interesting Twitter choices. Now, Liam, I don't know much about this. You're going to fill me in.
I will. Do you know much about this, Karlo?
I do.
All right. Now, I'm going to give specifics because my brain is fried just from all the frying I do to it.
Yeah.
So I hope you remember what the tweets were. But the long and short of it is that Hook Griffin has a Twitter account, as many of us do. But Had. Many of us do, but it generally doesn't work out when you're over 50 and you've got a Twitter account. So what Anthony Griffin has gone ahead with, and it seems like what he enjoys, his hobbies, are right-wing extremism, certain racist connotations and associations, and it sounds like there's been a bit of a call, especially from Indigenous players in the game, to say, look, we kind of need to teach this bloke how to not be a dick.
Yeah.
And as someone, they've been trying to teach me how to not be a dick for years. It just doesn't work sometimes.
So I remember seeing the original post. And I don't know if I can mention them on you because I don't know if they're a rival podcast.
Oh, no.
We've no rivals.
There are but no rivals to this podcast. It would imply that we're some sort of competitive. No. There's only up from here.
So the Boom Rookies, the NRL Boom Rookies, who I'm an avid listener of.
Great pod. If you like us, I don't know, something's wrong with you, but yeah, jump ship. They're very good, the Boom Rookies.
Well, I listened to 3 rugby league podcasts, 2 of which are yourselves and Boom Rookies, so you can fit them both into your life. And I remember this tweet specifically because all it said is that I don't think Anthony Griffin realises that the tweets that you like are recorded on your profile, and the rest of it sort of went from there. And the next thing you know, he's being signed by the Dragons, and that account doesn't exist anymore. So
some unsavoury likes, would you say, or ones that might be a little bit more controversial if you're a public figure?
What I will say is that they're very firmly on one side of the political spectrum in respect of the position that they take. And look, the thing is that particularly for a club like the Dragons, is that they need someone who's going to unify at the moment. So good luck, Hook.
And it was
get on that.
It was particularly bad timing as well because it was merely a week after Nathan Blacklock came out in the media and said that he and other teammates had been racially vilified by teammates in the past. To have Blacklock come out and say that he'd experienced this, and then all of a sudden they've got a coach who may perpetuate that. I don't know.
Now, Liam, Curtis Scott came out with a video. Well, the police came out with a video around Curtis Scott's arrest earlier in the year. Now, Liam, neither of us are allowed to provide any legal advice anymore on this podcast.
Not anymore,
after of course, the Jazz First City of Cessnock.
Yeah, thank you, Cessnock, City Council.
But, Karlo, you can. So...
Lure us, Karlo. Lure us.
Can I just say, it's the first time in rugby league history where a rugby league player wanted the footage to be released. So It was very rare. We're like, no, can you release it into the media for us? I haven't done anything this time.
Surely there must have been questions. I remember him saying like they really want the tape, but but the tape is a little bit,
egregious.
Egregious is a good word. Yeah. What's your take on it, Karlo?
Look, from a, and you've got to keep in mind that I'm a civil solicitor. So anytime you hear a civil solicitor talking about criminal proceedings, you really want to take it with a grain of salt. But
well, better than take it with a bag of salt. If us two idiots talk about it, so.
we ate the bag of salt earlier today. Hence the weight.
Is that and for Curtis, like. You've got to have some respect for Curtis to see it through.
Yep.
And when it comes to sort of footage like that, the thing about it is that it really can be any footage can be interpreted any way. Like one of the things is that we don't know what happened before the footage. We certainly don't know what happened. But
I believe he threw a phone at a Suzuki Swift.
Yeah, and this is the thing, but. In respect of the charges, as I understand them, which was that you assaulted a police officer, it's very rare that you're going to come across footage like that is as clear cut that says, well, look, you certainly can't uphold those charges based on that. And ultimately, Curtis was vindicated for that. And
I think they dropped 5 of the 7 charges.
Yeah. And I think once you sort of start dropping, once you start going, well, look, we're not going to be able to maintain these charges. It's really on the DPP to go, what are we going to get out of this?
Yeah.
But I don't want to get too political and outrageous.
Please, that's going to be our next step of this podcast. Is we're only going to go political. We only want controversy.
All right,
we got Hook coming in next week,
and we've got Curtis this week. But I think. Again, I'm only going to touch on this
good luck to Hook following as a guest after me, buddy.
I think the issue is that. Obviously, having this happen to someone of high profile, well-known rugby league player, that this has come out and people are seeing what's happened, it gets you thinking, if this is the treatment that he's being given as, a well-known figure and it's finally come out, you got to wonder, how often is this actually happening? And there was another great video is the wrong word, but there was another video came out.
Interesting video.
That, just sheds light on some serious societal issues that we have with the authority figures in this country, and I'll leave it at that.
And rugby league players as well.
Especially rugby league.
Maybe assumptions that can be made when a rugby league player has a bit of an incident with the law, and we make assumptions that they must be on the wrong side of the law.
I want to see the Russell Packett tape.
I think it's the Russell Crowe tapes.
I've seen them.
Because he's a rugby league fan as well. It's got to be it's not a bad thing, I think, to see like this amount of exposure in the media, and it says, actually, look, the rugby league player, some of us made some assertions of
I believe we were amongst those.
We were amongst those as well.
There were a lot of tweets being deleted.
And it's good to get the whole picture and wait for the court due process to happen before we make that make those comments.
But this could be our generation's Zapruder films.
So one more time.
Remember we learned about this 2 weeks ago. Well, I forgot what it was. Wasn't that the video of the JFK assassination?
Yeah. No. Abraham Zapruder was the man that filmed the JFK assassination.
There you go. This is our generation's Zapruder film.
I like that. Yeah. The cop on the grassy knoll. I can go with that.
With the taser and the pepper spray.
And the jumping on the ankles. And the pinching of the ear. I thought that was an interesting way to wake up. Pinch him on the ear.
It's like you knew him intimately. Like, hey, wake up. Like,
hey, buddy.
Hey, buddy. Yeah. Look, guys, we have to deep dive into something that happened on the weekend, which, the Newcastle Knights were down the SCG, hoping to get a win against not only the reigning premiers, but the reigning two-time premiers, something that hasn't happened in a long time. Emotions were high. We thought possibly we could come up with the chockies, even though we're resting a few of our key players.
I put the Knights in a multi at $8.
And what happened, Karlo? What happened?
All right. So this is a bit off the cuff. I didn't come pre-planned to tell this story, but here we are.
Excellent.
And it's not the best. It's a very small story. So I'm not a gambler.
No.
I generously donate money to gambling agencies.
Sure.
They never give me money. Now, last week I was sitting there and I was like, we're resting players. The Roosters are going to be caught unawares. O'Brien's coming up against his old side. He'll want to prove a point. Final starting this game, $8. I'm putting 100 on.
Value.
Yeah.
And
Gamble responsibly, please.
and gamble. I am the pin-up for why, and I'm the pin-up child for why gambling agencies. Oh gosh, we've got to get someone to bet on this. Chuck $8 on them. So I believed. I had all the belief in the world that we were going to spring an upset, and I still believed it even going into half time. Even when they scored after 2.5 minutes, I was like, look, that's the try you have to concede. Now we'll really, get our act together and we'll come back from this. And it was awful. It was just O'Brien nailed it up. It really was disappointing. And we've had some bad losses, but this was disappointing.
Liam, you say that the Roosters come this time of year just click into gear.
Well, that's the thing, and I think it's a mark of how good of a coach Trent Robinson is. Obviously, they started the year not great. They suffered a series of injuries. They had to... Oh, this is a great post-try celebrate. I love the little handshake. I hate to see when the Roosters score, but if we pay close attention here, obviously Kiri goes over under the post. Sorry, I was getting my overs and unders mixed up again. Why I'm a terrible gambler.
Yeah.
And then we see as Kiri scores, he approaches James Tedesco. And we haven't got the footage, but it was a very polite handshake. A very polite handshake.
You stuck the hand out and just shook it.
But it's a good, in all these days of very elaborate, over-the-top rugby league try celebrations, it's good to see something. God damn it!
Didn't have the footage, but what it was a friendly handshake like you've just run into your neighbour down in the back.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
That's all.
I assume they're neighbours, and they're Roosters, so their back's full.
They're in the bubble.
They're in the bubble.
Can I just say, I really liked that you mentioned how badly they were going at the beginning of the season, because I was going off on online when they lost their opening 2 games. I'm like, oh yeah, Roosters, you're good at going back to back, aren't you? And one Rooster just nailed me afterwards, going, Knights fans throwing shade at Roosters is the funniest thing. I'm like, oh yeah, we'll see you at the end of the season, buddy. So tip my hat to Matt Truck 81 because you nailed me, buddy.
Dear friend of the show, Matt Truck, actually, 81.
Oh, sorry.
Never heard of the bloke.
Yeah, but it was interesting to see that the Knights. It's felt like a flogging from yesteryear when they got 24 points in the first 24 minutes, and we thought this could be anything, but we managed to wrestle the momentum back in the last 10 minutes of the first half. And it's starting to feel like, hang on a second, that we could actually get a bit of a game out of here. Were you happy with the boys to manage to turn that momentum from a Rooster side, a red hot Rooster side?
So I'm a big Inari Tuala fan, and that's actually easy to say now, but someone was deep in my personal messages before the season, was like, well, you guys have picked up this Tuala from my Cowboys, and he says, I guarantee you that will be the buy of the season. I was like, look at you, big talking, you're off. He's like, no. I promise you, I'm shattered that we're losing this kid. He is a star in the making. And I actually drafted him in one of my fantasy teams off the back of it, and he's picked up a few.
How does he do in fantasy? Because how many tries do you have? He does about 10.
He does some good, and he does some great stats every now and then. So
because I know Coach loves him.
Yeah,
Coach loves him.
He's just one of those really reliable performers that you don't expect from someone that young.
What's his name, Naggy?
Well, I can't say it. Inari, Tuala, Inari.
Hey, you got it.
I got it.
Nice.
What he's been is just he's surpassed expectations. Like he's gone well above me. And I think a lot of people, when we saw both Inari and also Shibisaki, I can't find another thing. Here it is. Where Shibasaki was these couple of guys just sort of making up the numbers, maybe a bit of depth players, but both of them seem to be performing well, above expectations, which I think is very nice for Newcastle side.
It is nice, which is it's fairly unusual.
Shibasaki is a name this weekend, just quietly.
Yeah, I didn't want to call you out on that, Nagy.
Well, I'll do it. I'm new. I'm the guest.
Yeah, no, please. Yeah, no.
He's been dropped.
He has been dropped, but he's played a lot more games than I thought he would this year.
He's definitely been delivering most of the time when he's been playing.
And that's coming off losing players like Edric Lee and Bretman Best and players that really just shot to stardom the first 5 rounds.
I don't know if I'm treating, but I didn't realise how much we were missing Edric until he played on Saturday.
Oh, absolutely.
He's immense for us.
Since he came over to the club, he's been phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it's funny because when he left Canberra fans seemed No, prior to the Sharks.
so
When he left Canberra fans were happy to see him go because he spilled the ball in the 2016 prelim, which would have won the game. So Canberra fans were happy to see him go. Sharks fans seemed ambivalent.
Well, he
so
was,
I was like,
he was
he
bounced
must be
between
pretty
first grade and reserve grade.
But since he's been with us, obviously barring the injuries, he's been great, fantastic. And it was that first game against the Sharks where he gave Josh Dugan nightmares, and then they got that intercept try. It was then I could already picture it. Edric, like Sivo at Parramatta, he's much worse.
Yep.
And we don't chant Edric's name.
No. Well,
He's back now and we can.
It's fantastic to see because obviously we lost him halfway through last season and he didn't come back. We lost him to that same injury this season and we thought that might be another season gone. He needed surgery again. So it's great to see him back in. It's what we needed coming into the finals. But he was one of the shining lights along with Daniel Safidi also making his return, which was, again, a play that you forget how much you miss until he's back.
He and Clem really tried to lead the way, I thought. In a well-beaten side, both ran well over 100 metres, which is tough, to get the backup and get things on the roll. But Clem and, Daniel Safidi especially, really just, they tried to drag us kicking and screaming, as Peter Volandis would say, over the line.
We also had a new player, or it's a player that we've had before, but a new, wearing the number 1, not since back in round 3, in Tex Hoy back in the side. What's your thoughts on Tex being back?
You're a Hoy boy, Karlo.
I'm a Hoy boy. This is another one that the Boom rookies have thrown me under the bandwagon on. So, look, I think the problem for poor Tex was that you get run over a couple of times in a game against the reigning premiers. That's not a good look. But I liked the good things that Tex did. There was one particular moment where you sort of... It would have been easy for him to give up towards the end of the game, but he just kept trying right to the last minute. And I still think... there's the footage there. He was chasing down this ball, and he's like, no, I'm not going to concede another try. And I think Tex Hoy at 5'8" this coming weekend is hopefully a small vision of the future.
And I wonder though, obviously we talked about a bit early, he's very much that running 5'8".
He's just so calm under pressure.
That's what I really liked about him. There's lots of times where he could have taken the easy option and almost like run up and just secure the ball, but he sort of went down the blind at one stage. He was using some footwork. He was trying things that you don't necessarily seen from a player that was just filling in number 1. You'd think almost he'd try to be safe, but he was almost had a bit of tenacity to him.
Yeah, he would go and play the game.
Yes, I like tenacity.
But I do take on board what you're saying, Liam. I think he's going to be he's going to be a great ball runner, and I think that running off, if Mitch can pass the ball where it needs to get to. And I was going to say properly, and I didn't mean that. I feel bad now. Pass the ball where it needs to go. You've got a running 5'8" off you, and lay it off to KP, and let's just start putting 50s on opposition teams.
And look, we must look forwards not backwards. Backwards not forwards. Twirling, always twirling. Liam. Now we've got the Dragons this week. We have that big in at Tex Hoy at number 6. Unfortunately, Dickie Knee's
gone.
Dickie Knee's gone.
Unfortunately, Tex Hoy moves into number 6. Heimel back in the centres. I like Heimel being back.
Mitch Barnett as well. On top of Edric, on top of D South. It seems like a bolstered side compared to what we saw playing the Sharks. Coming in playing the luckless St George, which is always nice to see. I like St George winning, but I liked us finishing above St George often.
I'm never confident in home games against the Dragons. Ever. It just never, ever. As soon as I'm like, we're going to earn that win if we get it.
Sunday afternoon for the 4 o'clock game, the telly game, which we've seen a few of this year, but we're not
free to air.
Free, it's absolutely free. Much like this podcast. But it's going to be exciting to see because it's Old Boys Day. Now, I think the last time we played the Dragons on Old Boys Day was in 2014 when we managed to surprisingly to flog them, 40 points to 14. But the beautiful thing about that was Tamana Tahu hitting Jacob Bellin so hard in the stomach that he vomited several times.
Now, I've played a lot of lower grade rugby union. When you play lower grade rugby union, you play on the Saturday, you generally play in the morning because you're 5th grade and you've got to work your way through to 1st grade. But the thing about being a social rugby union player is that you do drink a lot. And so I myself have vomited during games more than I would care to admit. But I always had the politeness to take it over the touchline.
Yeah.
I would not... Jack de Bellin, let's not go... Nothing.
You are a
terrible.
scholar and a gentleman, Liam. So.
Thank you.
Vomited several times on field.
I at least had the decency to take it over the sideline. Unlike a prop I used to play with who ate KFC before a game and vomited mid-scrum.
You don't want that.
No.
That's chunky.
That's chunky.
Oh, God.
Hashtag take it over.
Take it over the side. Chris Randall moves to 9 in absence of Kurt Mann. Kurt Mann, who's been charged with a crusher tackle. Something that I saw...
Nothing in it.
Yeah, I thought there was not. I was
Nothing in it.
Speaking of crusher tackles, just quickly, in my understanding of a crusher tackle, it seems like there should be some sort of malice and either
Malice aforethought.
or at least carelessness of where he manages to get the player's head or neck. But I feel like there has to be a shared responsibility of the player. No, actually, this isn't the one he got pinged for.
No, I thought that. Oh yeah, no, that was the second half.
Yeah. There's another one that there seems
Milk.
It seems to be there needs to be at least a responsibility of the player, a shared responsibility of the player running the ball when you start backing your way through the line.
There it is. Yeah.
And you have a player coming over the top. Because if you go low, their arms are free. So wrapping the ball up, going down to the ground, your body's going to be put in an awkward position. I feel like there's some crusher tackles out there, but that wasn't one of them.
I heard something today. I don't know if it's accurate or not, but they were talking about Brett Morris, whichever one was involved in this crusher tackle.
Again, there's no difference. They're the same.
Apparently whichever Morris brother, a Morris brother has been involved in like 5 of these crusher tackles.
Yeah.
Huh.
And it's like, at which point are they going to start going, Brett, maybe you should stop getting on the ground like
Well,
that.
again, as a lawman, precedent.
That's a
What does that word
sounds
mean?
like you're like a sheriff in a small town. Like you're the lawman.
Steven Seagal is
Can I just say,
Lawman.
what you need to understand about lawyers, and this is the life. I promise you, this is a really valuable life lesson. There's no such thing as easy advice. What we're thinking, we're not
charged?
thinking. No, what we're generally thinking. So, what do you think about this? We're not thinking, oh well, these are all the things you could get right. We're thinking, what can I say that won't get me in trouble? So, do I want to be on a podcast blaming Brett Morris for a neck injury? No, I really don't. So,
we slander people all the time. It's great.
and I'm happy for you to do that. But what I will say is that if we want to put our legal caps on, is that one of the things about these crusher tackles that the NRL have made clear is, from my understanding, is that they're not bothered about intent anymore. They don't care whether you're going in there to go, oh, look, we're going to bend this guy's neck so far forward that it's almost snapped off. They don't care. What they're saying to players is that you now need an awareness where if you're the tackler and you're in a situation where it looks like a player's neck, who's carrying the ball is going to be a problem for them. We're going to make that a problem for you. Now, what the league decides to do with that in respect of ball carriers taking advantage of it, I would have no idea how they want, whether they even think that's something to be aware of, because they may consider, we don't care anymore. We don't care anymore if ball carriers, to the extent like, well, we'll put our own necks in danger, because they simply want to say the onus is on defenders now to be sure nothing can happen to that player's neck. And if that's the way they want to police it, then defensive teams need to be aware of that.
Sound advice is from the first part saying, don't say things that can get you into trouble. I think that's what I really took from that. But it's also great advice regarding crusher tackles. It's something we're trying to work out of the game. We need a deep dive on something, Karlo, that you're very close to. You're the face of in the Bronze for Johns campaign that Liam's wearing the hats. You're also wearing the more retro,
Beautiful corduroy
hat. Now,
God, I wish corduroy never went out.
It's back, trust me.
This is something that Newcastle has got behind, but Karlo, where did it all start?
Okay, all right. Well, first of all, look, thank you so much for having us on, so I get an opportunity to talk about it. It's just really exciting. So, unfortunately, the Bronze for Johns campaign didn't start with anything noble. It actually started with but certainly a little bit of pettiness on my part.
Why do you think we do a podcast?
Yeah. We know pettiness.
We started this whole podcast out of spite.
Yes.
And long may it live. I was trawling through Twitter one day and I came across Wally Lewis announcing to all of Queensland that the Jonathan Thurston statue for the new stadium, the design had been approved and it was going ahead. And I immediately because I don't think about these things much. I just immediately, when it's a non-legal setting, I just say what comes to mind. And I'm pretty sure my exact words were, where the F is the effing Andrew Johns statue, all a Queenslander needs to do is kick straight and they get an effing statue. Come the F on, people. And
For any fans at home, that was fuck. Sorry, Karlo, just to jump in there. But carry on.
And it just... I wanted the greatest player of all time who happens to be from Newcastle to be appropriately recognised. And the next thing I knew, I just said to some mates, hey, I've set up a change.org, let's sign on it. And funnily enough, I'm sorry, this is the third time I'm going to mention them, but one of the hosts from the NRL Boom Rookies, who thought he was taking the piss, said, no, petitions aren't where they at. You need money, mate. You got to get on GoFundMe. And that's what I did. And then the next thing I knew, I think it's Jacinta Lee was contacting me from the NBN going, we've got to start getting people talking about this. Wow. And it just sort of grew from there.
Snowball, I suppose you'd say.
Yeah. Now, it'd be hugely remiss of me not to mention... Look, I won't mention his name. He does like a little bit of a background thing, but someone donated $500 to this GoFundMe page, and that was like, oh, this might actually happen. And he messaged me. He said, we need to make this happen. He's the greatest player that ever played the game. He's one of ours. We deserve a statue so that we can really, just honour greatness. And... and it sort of started from there.
What's your experience now? It's been, is it 18 months? Is it 1 year? I can't remember.
So, the 19th of September. So, what's the date today?
15th, I think. I don't know. 14th.
So, in 4 days'
2020,
time.
that's the day.
Yeah,
that's the date.
In a few days' time, we're coming up on a year to the date where I first tweeted about it.
What's your experience been with the Newcastle people? With supportive or maybe not supportive of this? What have you found?
I generally get one of two responses. The first response is always, this is great and we can't wait for it to happen. But the second one, which sort of surprises me a bit, goes, yeah, we don't understand why it hasn't happened already. And when you think about it, I think it's something that we all sort of... It's something that we sort of took for granted a little bit because Queenslanders are great at commemorating their legends of the game.
Oh,
when they
shut up. Queensland spirit.
Credit's given where credit's due. They've got a museum's worth of statues out front of Suncorp Stadium, and that to them is the way they do it. And I just thought to myself, let's embrace this. Let's also be a part of this, because as I said to a friend, I said, my selfie with an Andrew Johns statue is going to look a lot better than my selfie with the Andrew Johns stand. And it's just cool. And it actually started... Something that I realised as I was getting into it was that a little bit of me started to get a bit panicky that we were perhaps forgetting Joey a little bit. And it was something that I actually said. So we got to meet the CEO of Venues New South Wales back in February. And one of the things that I actually did say to him was, I said, this stadium in Newcastle that you get to manage, you don't have that stadium there if it's not for Andrew Johns. And I was very clear about this. I said, it's very easy for me to say something like oh, well, what about the Chief? Or, oh, what about Danny Beardall? And I said, me saying that Andrew Johns is great is not me saying that no one else is great. But I like to think, and I'm not a personal friend of Paul the Chief Harrigan, but...
Listens to the show.
I don't think that their greatness would be appreciated as much if not for the influence of Andrew Johns. Andrew Johns at his peak was Newcastle, and Newcastle was big because of Andrew Johns. And it just makes sense to me.
Well,
it makes
Karlo,
sense
we
to
agree.
me.
We agree. And now you've got some fairly high profile support.
We do, yeah.
Who have been the big ones who have got behind you and said, we want this, we need this?
So, look,
Uncle Phil might have been involved.
Probably the big three. The big three events for me really were when the Knights got on board. And to their credit, and I have all the respect and all the admiration in the world for the Newcastle Knights online digis who haven't blocked me or reported me or just gotten me completely out of their lives, because I got very manic about it and just tagged them in everything I possibly could. And one night I actually don't get to tell, so if you'll allow me a little bit of time to tell this story.
Yes.
I at the end of November last year, or in November to December, myself and my other half and her kids were up at Hawk's Nest, and I was just minding my business, minding my own business on my phone, as it were. And I got a notification, and I can always. I always knew if the Knights were ignoring me or not, or if they were paying a little bit of attention. You're like, I got a notification from the Knights, Therese, isn't this exciting? Anyway, this notification just came up on my phone, and it said, from the Newcastle Knights, keep your eyes open, K-Dog. And I was like, have I imagined it? I was like, did this just
Are
happen?
you tripping?
Yeah. Anyway, that was them sort of signposting that there's going to be a big story in the Telegraph, and Phil Gardner had come out and said this would be we back this 100%. This is something that the city of Newcastle, the Newcastle Knights Club, we think will be a great idea. And my phone was going mental, and I was so that was probably the first big. No, that wasn't. That was the biggest one. I've got to be honest with you. That was probably the biggest one. There was a big day out at Legends of League where the likes of I'm just reeling them off as I think them, but Ashton Sims, Nathan Hindmarsh, Wendell Saylor, they all got on board. Yeah. It was like, we support Bronze for Johns, and all of the Newcastle Knights old boys, and that was when I knew. That was when I knew that this was real, because for all of those Knights old boys in particular, for them to recognise that greatness, and for the people of Newcastle to go, this is something that we should have. That was when I was just like, this is really happening. And probably the other big one was the NRL recently, acting CEO, I think,
Andrew Abdo,
and now full timer. He wrote to me and he said, of course the NRL supports this. It has to happen.
I hadn't heard that one. That's huge.
Yeah.
So there's obviously been such a busy year for yourself of taking an idea, and now it's something that has all the support. Where are we? Can we smell it? Is there fumes in the air of bronze being moulded, or
do you mould bronze? Right. Do you cut it? Do you chip it? I don't know.
Well,
smelt it. I think smelt it.
A couple of things happened. A couple of things, sort of unfortunate, but time will tell how unfortunate. COVID was not our friend. As soon as COVID hit and the economy no one knew what was happening, I just went, I'm not sure that statues are the big go-to thing at the moment. So we sort of put that a bit on the back burner. But then the second thing that really sort of happened recently was that the people who run the stadiums, and I'm fairly sure this is public knowledge. I'm not saying anything that's sort of that I'm personally privy to. Venues New South Wales said, well, look, we're actually merging shortly. We won't be our own entity making this decision. So the SCG Trust, as I understand, is going to merge with Venues New South Wales, and that new entity will be the ones that make the final.
Strange collaboration.
Yeah.
Trust.
Yeah. So they're going to run all of the major stadiums in New South Wales. That was my understanding from a recent Sydney Morning.
I was under the impression that the SCG Trust can barely run the SCG.
Look, I've got a lot of faith in. I've got a lot of faith in a lot of things that they can do. Hopefully, one of which is a statue of Andrew Johns. But so, unfortunately, what that meant was for me, all this legwork that we'd done with a particular organisation had the potential to go to the wayside. So, in a lot of ways, I sort of have to start with a new people. But I think I can say something an exclusive. Yep.
Please, no exclusiveness here. We don't want anything. Nothing. Please share us with it.
Well, I think I can sort of reveal something exclusive. This is an exclusive to the Joust podcast.
We've never had one before.
That's the first one.
Yeah. Is that today, on the day that we're recording this, we got a letter from I think the Minister for Sport, Dr. Jeff Lee, and the Premier forwarded our correspondence to him, and he said, "Yes, I'm in charge of this portfolio, and I think that this is a great idea. The people who are going to be looking after this is the SCG Trust new organisation. They're going to have a community engagement process shortly." And he said, "I strongly urge you to put forward that." And he said, "I think they'll be very open to it."
It's amazing.
So,
and look, you mentioned COVID halting progress a bit, but I think the bright side of COVID, at least while the world's going through, what do we want to call it? A recession, perhaps a depression.
Yeah.
I imagine the price of bronze has fallen through the floor, especially with talks of the Tokyo Olympics being postponed or put back a bit. I think the bronze market, this could really be the time to shine. We might get the statue for a quarter of a buck. That'd be brilliant.
Karlo, I can say you've taken an idea, you've turned it into a campaign, and now we're moving towards something that's
a groundswell.
That's going to be
groundswell.
That's hopefully going to be something that the Newcastle people can have and treasure for a long time.
Danny Badira said it best at the end of last year. He said something to the Telegraph where he said, "This isn't manufactured. This isn't something where someone in a suit somewhere just went, yeah, we have to make this happen. This is something that fans wanted to happen, and I think that's a testament to Andrew Johns' legacy, is that his fans and the people of Newcastle are like, we're behind this and we're going to make this happen.
That's a much better chat than my chat with Danny Badiris. I ran into him at the wonderful Commonwealth Hotel. Fantastic pub, very good time. And I saw Danny Badiris and I just blanked, didn't know what to say. So I held my hand out for a handshake and, thanks for 01, mate. Bearing in mind, this was about 3 years ago, so 16 years removed from 01. And I was still just thanking him for it.
I'm still thanking him for it. I remain eternally thankful to him for it.
Always thanking for it. How can people get behind Bronford Johns, Karlo?
There are two. Well, there's not just two. There's a few avenues that you can sort of get on board. Where actually, last I checked, we were running a Facebook page called Andrew Johns Statues Supporters Group, and we were like too short of 4,000. So if anybody wants to jump on and just chuck us a couple of likes, we might be able to crack 4,000 there. But we've got an Instagram page showing as well, which is more of a fan page for Joey. But probably the two substantive ways that you can really put your supporter behind it is. Put your name to the petition. You know, show your support for a Newcastle legend. And look, the GoFundMe page is still running. But look, as soon as COVID hit and as soon as things changed, I realised that this is not people's priority financially at the moment. So it's there if people want to make a contribution towards it. It's so important to me. It is so vitally important to me that Andrew's fans get to contribute to it. That was why I did the GoFundMe. There were so many people who said, "Oh, Andrew can pay for it himself," and I'm like, Andrew Johns can build a fleet of statues of himself in his backyard. That's not the point of this. Yeah. The point of this is that, and this is why I did it publicly. I promise you, it would have been a lot easier for me just to be like Andy Dufresne out of the Shawshank Redemption and just write a letter a week to the government going, give me my statue, give me my statue. But where's the fun in that? Yeah. I want people to be a part of this. I want all of Newcastle to be a part of this and say, when they're showing their kids, you know, this is the statue, that I was a part of.
It came from us.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that Andrew could probably pay for it himself.
Yeah.
Sorry. I've heard he's pretty...
Loose grasp.
Yeah, loose grasp on a lot of things. From what I've heard, Andrew is particularly tight with his money to the point... to the point where after he retired, he was still sponsored by Nike. And so the whole family every year would just get like size 12 Nike football boots or Nike shirts, Nike shorts. Yeah. From what I could be wrong. Andrew listens to the show. Give us a shout if I'm incorrect. Please do. From what I've heard,
look, I certainly can't comment on that. What I can comment on though is that I think Joey likes to drop a few dollars on a couple of beers because for the Legends of League tournament that he was up for, the night before, my phone was going nuts. I just saw Joey at the comic. Oh, he's on it hard. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm sure he is. So
you can just take the boy out of Cessna.
Yeah, you can.
Garnering support for the Bronford Johns statue. It's something that I think the whole town can get behind, and they are getting behind, and I think we're going to get there, and we'll get there together, and it's going to be something that we can remember forever. Thank you tremendously for that, Karlo.
And look, I actually do want to give a shout out to our Lord Mayor, Nuatali Nelmas. She was a big... She didn't hesitate.
She was on board early.
She did a video, and she wrote us a really nice letter. So look, at the end of the day, the city of Newcastle is behind this project.
Wonderful.
And rightly so.
And we like to feel like we're part of that city of Newcastle.
We think that.
So, maybe our outcasts, or whatever the case might be. Karlo, we can't thank you enough, but we've got to open our sack.
Time for the sack, ladies and gentlemen. Now, this is a very special first question. Our first question in the sack comes from Karlo Tychsen. Karlo asks us this week, why is all I feel nothing but excruciating and exhausting pain? Now, I'm going to direct this question to our guest, Karlo Tychsen. Karlo, the question asks, why is it all I feel nothing but excruciating and exhausting pain?
Look, a very good friend of mine and friend of the show, Brett Cruikshank, if you're listening.
Good follow on Twitter.
This is your answer, is that we certainly love the Knights a lot, but how come they don't love us as much?
If anything, or at least we're very seasoned. It's like we've built up a resistance to pain and suffering after the years and years of it.
One of the strangest experiences of my life was the last home game the Knights played, which was against the Cronulla Sharks. Sharks.
Yeah.
Now, I walked out of that game.
So what were you were talking about? Last
like 2 weeks
2
ago.
weeks ago.
Oh, sorry, the last. I think the last.
The
ever, I was
actual last home game
The most
we played.
recent one, yeah.
I walked out of that game feeling obviously furious because of what the Sharks had done to our boy. And actually, we had Ethan on, so I didn't get to say a lot of the terrible, terrible things I was going to say about the Sharks, but they're terrible. But that was the first time I can remember walking out of a Knights game and it's feeling relieved.
Yeah.
Feeling like we won and that was good.
Yeah.
And
In the finals,
I've never had that before. It was a wonderful feeling. I'm so used to, as you said, the excruciating pain, the trials, the tribulations, the just mind-boggling silliness.
Trying to come to an existential understanding of why things are so bad. It was just nice not to have to go through that again.
It's nice.
It's very nice.
And look, we're obviously moving into the finals. We are preparing ourselves for possibly the hopes to be risen, only for them to be taken away again. But it's something that we're very, very used to.
I'm backing us to win in week one. I'm backing us to win a final.
If we look at the
especially
teams,
as a home final.
if we look at the teams that we will most likely play in the Raiders, the Rabbits, the Sharks, or possibly the Eels, and I back the Newcastle Knights to beat any of those teams.
If we're not hosting a final, we've got to figure out how to travel. Like we travelled really well down to Sydney in those Campbelltown Stadium games.
Yeah.
But ever since, oh man,
No
every time
fans,
we have
maybe.
to-
Maybe take
every
the fans
time-
away.
Knights teams historically are great with fans, so I hope that's not our new thing. I hope it's not going to be a thing where, let's limit the attendance to 2,000 now. They don't like the pressure. No.
Liam, we have time for 2 more questions. Who else have we got?
I was going to say next one from Bretto, actually on the same lines, but I'll read it out. Why does rugby league hate Newcastle when we give it nothing but devotion and love? I think, again, similar concept. We give our all and it hurts so much.
Yeah.
But we're getting beyond that, I think.
So look, it's very quickly, and I am taking this over a little bit. Liam referred to me as the most passionate Knights fan going out there, and I pulled him up on that, and I said, look, I promise you that is absolutely not the case. I'm expressive about my passion, but it's people like Bretto. Like Bretto, he rides this team like in ways that you can't believe, and
like a horse.
and so many other people that I've sort of come across who travel far and wide to see them play, and that question right there is really
sums it up, doesn't it?
Because what you said about the Sharks win. When I got home to my missus, I said, how happy are you that the Knights won? I'm going to be in a good mood for the next 7 days. It's...
That might have been the alcohol, because we're both quite drunk that night.
Yes, you were. I heard the stories. Now, Josh Spiegelman, next question. Now,
the notorious fourth jouster.
The notorious fourth jouster, the Hebrew hammer, the very same. Now, this is a bit of a maybe contentious question. There, we might get into some deep, dark, shady dealings. Josh asks, what is the point of supporting a league where they don't take a fair playing field seriously? Cooking the books for years, buying up the best of the league while we get outcasts? I'll love the Knights forever, but the NRL needs to take a good hard look at themselves. Roosters always at the pointy end, and the odd year they aren't, they just splash the cash. Now, it's very interesting to discuss because obviously, we all joke about the Roosters salary sombrero, the National Roosters League. Likewise for, Souths, Melbourne, all those kind of things. They get to basically do what they please within the NRL sphere. So I'm kind of torn on this question.
Can I... You guys asked me a couple of legal questions before. Can I say, if we were in court, that would be called a leading question. So I think the answer is sort of implied in the question itself. There, look, I've become actually quite not honest, but sort of I've tried to be a lot more realistic this season, and I think the Knights actually now are in a position where a loss like Saturday... Normally in the past, we look at a loss like Saturday and we go, oh, that's how far behind we are. Oh, we're no good. Oh, yeah. And
I said exactly those things.
And we'd wallow. Yeah. I like to think that the Knights as an organisation, as a team now, can actually look at Saturday night and go, well, not only should we not be happy with that result, we just came up against the team that we should be aspiring to be. Now, in respect of what the NRL do to manage the league, they're supporting my statue, so they can do whatever they want. But
you take your blood money, Karlo.
Yeah. I'll take every dime of it. And don't you hear it? But in respect of what the Roosters are doing, I genuinely think the Roosters, the Broncos, when they were good, that's what we should be aspiring to be now. We should be looking at those teams going, what can we do to replicate that? Trent Robinson was one of ours.
Yes.
He was a nice
coach
guy.
under Mike Smith.
And he's gone down to bigger and better things. And I like to think that Phil Gardner at West has said, we want to be the Roosters of Newcastle. And Adam O'Brien has said, I want to be the Bellamy of Newcastle. So
I think something that's very interesting that I was reading today and kind of having a think about is that you tend to see the clubs that are run particularly well, your Roosters, your Storm, potentially Rabbitohs as well, they're not being run by old boys. They've got people in charge with business acumen. They've got people in charge with experience in the business side of things. Where so many of the clubs that aren't doing too well and don't seem to succeed in the back office. You always hear about jobs for the boys and how jobs for the boys just tears everything down.
I think it needs to be a sign of a bit of ruthlessness in both how the club's managed, player rosters managed. When a player's playing well, you sign him. If he's not playing well, you sign someone else. And not having that hometown feel to it. Karlo, what's your thoughts?
I wouldn't feel right about being a proper Knights fan if I didn't get a little Broncos dig in somewhere.
Yeah, please.
I've been waiting for that whole episode.
Speaking of shit sides, the Brisbane Broncos.
I would love nothing more than for the Broncos to sign up Kevin Walters to a 5-10-year deal as their head coach.
I'm so glad we agree on that.
And let me tell you why. Kevy is selling himself on this idea that I know the Broncos and I want to bring that Broncos spirit in. And but Kevy, you know the Broncos when they didn't have a salary cap back in the 90s, they could do whatever they want and they just kept winning premierships.
Yeah, you had 3 of your brothers playing for them.
How is that? And you had the greatest coach of all time. How is that mentality in the modern age where you've got other NRL clubs that are pilfering your talent, where you have to be a lot more salary cap compliant? What good is that past experience going to do you? Now, look, I don't know what his coaching ability is. I know that we keep beating him in Origin, and I actually know that his first grade coaching with the Les Catalans wasn't exceptional.
I believe he got them to the semi-finals, and then the very next year they came last.
So, exactly. So, for all I know, he's a master coach in waiting. But if he's selling himself on this idea, if he's selling himself on this idea that because I'm Broncos and I know the Broncos, good luck. So
it comes undone so regularly.
Yeah. And it ties into what you said. It's sort of like you want good football people in charge that want success. And know how to get success, which is why after Saturday night, I was down obviously from my question, but as I said, the mentality for the Knights should be that's what we aspire to be, as opposed to that's how far off we are and we'll never be that.
And as we were talking about earlier, I think in the Nathan Brown days, that result would have been shed in a very different light. I think we would have seen a press conference saying, we were always going to lose.
Injuries,
injuries,
resting players. And I can guarantee you, after that loss in the Brown days, I would have been comfort eating bowls of ice cream for the entire week until we played again. So, I think the Knights are a lot better placed after a loss like that. Than
all right, gents, quick one. One-word answers. Andrew Turvey, am I still a good fan if I turn off the game at halftime? I'm going to go with yes.
Yes.
That's my strategy often, but turning it back on a few minutes after and then maybe turning it off again with only one eye open.
And final question, we've saved the most important one for last. Michael King, how many potatoes can fit in the sack? Michael, I ask you, how long is one piece of string?
How big?
How big can you make the sack?
Exactly, yeah. Good Irish boys. We've got room for potatoes. Don't worry, we got potatoes coming out the wazoo. We got sacks on sacks on sacks. We'll smoked potatoes.
Smuggle a few out.
My other half is Irish. She knows all about potatoes, so I think she'll be happy with the way I answered that.
Excellent. I'll tell you what, there is nothing I can't do with a potato.
You need to do a potato joust or something. Just Liam cooking up potatoes for an hour.
Call it the starch.
My next, my next mission is homemade potato gems. So they call tater tots in the US. What a stupid name.
Karlo, it's been a pleasure having you on. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for what you're doing, not only for the town, but for the game and for the greatest player of them all. Liam, as always, I see you often, so I'm not going to give you that kind of rousing sort of thanks. But if you like us, please like us on Facebook, YouTube, SoundCloud, Twitter, Spotify, all those social pipes. We'll be back next week to cover the St. George game, so please join us for that. And thank you all. Karlo, favourite guest this year. Thank you very much for joining us.
Look, I'm out of, but I promise you, what you guys do for the game in this club, it's amazing.
Oh,
so thank you so much for having me on.
We're all in it together, brother. It's team sport. Team sport.
Thank you guys. We'll see you next week.